Hello, everybody. So, I saw the Jigokuwakuwakuzu movie, and I thought I would give some initial thoughts about just that. First off, let me thank all the great patrons who make this possible. As this is a short vid, I won't read everyone's names here. But if you like what I make, consider supporting me on Patreon. Also, if you like my weird creative output, consider buying Volt on the Electromagnetic Planet on itch.io. This month, March, will also see, hopefully, the premiere of a story compilation of strange stories that I've been, writing over the last few years. Not to disappoint anybody, most of them don't have giant robots. Exactly. But you'll have to wait and find out. With all that out of the way, let's get to the film. So, in a short nutshell for the Zoomers who... Sorry, as it's obviously not available online in good quality yet, for all the stuff in this video, I'm just going to draw it in MS Paint from memory. So, what was I talking about? Yes. Okay, in a nutshell, for all those with severe ADHD, was it good? Yes. Okay, but what was it? Basically, it's an hour and 30-ish minutes of UC 0079 fanfiction. You know me, you know my 50 Shades of Grey tattoo and my 10-year account on Archive of Our Own. You know when it comes to fanfiction, I mostly fucking hate it. It's an easy writing start for folks who are trying to learn the ropes and just want to use an existing setting and characters and all that kind of thing. But for those who get stuck there, it's basically a fucking black hole, where your true creative talents go to rot. So, if I say Jigokuwakuwakuzu, The Beginning, was a pretty great fanfiction, you know it did a lot of stuff right to impress me. So let's get into that in a bit more detail, why not? With a numbered list. Number 1, Chalia Bull. So, in this alternate UC, Char Aznavour doesn't meet Lala. Oh. Wait, okay, hold on. Number 1, no Amuro or Lala. Yeah, sorry. Should have really begun with that. The big difference in the setting is Char takes the Gundam prototype, and Amuro Ray and Lala Soon are no-shows. This is where the timeline diverges heavily. So getting back to number 2, Chalia Bull Glow Up. Instead, Char works with Chalia Bull. Now, if you don't remember him, I don't blame you. He is a one-episode baddie who pilots the serious name now, Brabro, I think. The one who, shoots wire-controlled lemon squeezers. He, in this timeline, is the one who fought with Char, and I think that's pretty great. When they attack the big Federation fortress, the animation is clearly calling back to Buster Machine 1 and 2 in Gunbuster and their assault. But why? One, it's, Studio Khara, who made Gunbuster, through their original staff members who were originally part of Gainax. It also looks cool. Oh, you want the reasons? Oh, okay. Chalia is literally, kind of a who when it comes to the general characters of OG 0079. He is a, D-lister at best in regards to that original series. So you have a lot of creative room. B, a big interaction I do remember from him is his talk with Lala and Char. The one where he remarks on the tragedy of new types essentially being nothing more than weapons used to kill each other by Zeon and the Federation. Taken together, this to me is a great example of good fanfiction / alternate timeline writing. Taking an interesting nugget of an idea that, really wasn't all that much in the original, and then kind of building on its strongest aspects to make something more. Something kind of worthwhile creatively to go out and do something with. So yeah, I dig it. Number 3, the whole alternate one-year war. The first chunk of the movie being an alternate UC is pretty great. It was done as well as the Chalia Bull thing, pretty much. It twisted and remixed a lot of familiar events in fun ways. They mass-produced the Big Zam, and it's actually incredibly useful and powerful. Dozle still dies, but a single Big Zam squadron is described as being basically pivotal, and is the thing that enables Zeon to capture Luna 2, their asteroid fortress, in pretty much a single day after weeks of fighting couldn't break it. But what really made me appreciate the setup is that this isn't, once again, a basic fanfiction. While in this timeline Zeon survives and, I'm doing air quotes but you can't see it, wins, it isn't some perfect victory in, Giran's ambition. In the aftermath of the war, the Federation still exists and has just retreated to the Earth. And while Zeon controls space, they face economic shortcomings. There is a huge refugee crisis creating slums in the surviving colonies, and Zeon even resorts to selling off surplus Zaku's after the war to raise funds. From the little details we see, the impact of what is, may I remind you, the single largest conflict in human history in Gundam seems to be pretty considered well. Zeon's, I'm doing air quotes again, win is really just control of the Earth sphere and, it gets to act as the monopoly on legitimate force in space. But it isn't like now perfect gumdrops and roses and, 200-meter tall statues of Giran. Which leads me to number 4. Them crazy zombies. Put simply, the movie only hints at the state of things post-war. We hear that Garma retired from the military, which does make sense considering in this timeline, the white base never went to Earth. So Garma got his, Nepo baby job and then just kind of locked in. So then, after that, he doesn't have any motivation to stick around. Now, we don't know if North America is thus under Zeon control or not, but it then jumps to the next thing. The status of Degwin and Giran are unknown, but Caecilia is described as Supreme Commander, which may mean Caecilia still removed Giran via brain salad surgery. Mokuve is also still alive, but he's also in space. So what this then really leads me to is number 5. Them crazy zombies may still be the end-all antagonists. In the flashback to the alternate one-year war, Char helps Zeon succeed so much the Federation accelerates Solomon at Granada, Caecilia's base of operations. Now, during Char's operation to stop it, he actually secretly wants it to fail, so it will just entirely splatter Caecilia. Because if you remember Char at this stage in his life, he basically has one goal, and that's to wipe out the zombies from power and being alive. However, he is new type Zetnovad. That is to say, he vanished, pretty spectacularly into a Minecraft editor delete sphere. And then Solomon, with the loss of its mass, is now deflected enough that it doesn't hit Granada. So, Caecilia is still alive, and perhaps some of the others are also still alive. Thus, the original villains of 0079 could, well, be still the same space fascist and baddies of Gqux as well. Now, speaking of that, number 6. We don't know where Char is. He poofed. So the exact whereabouts of Char, Amuro, and Lala are all unknown. But this is good. Why? Because if they do show up, it'll be pretty neat. But also, Gqux is a new series about new characters. And there's always the risk of bringing back old characters, which then would go on to ultimately overshadow the new ones. Because they already have a place in the audience's hearts, so it's good to use them sparingly. This then leads to number 7. The new cast is pretty interesting. Our actual protagonists now are a weird trio. Machu is a, kind of first up and is very impulsive to just pilot mobile suits. She doesn't have any military background and ultimately ends up fighting because she has some new type ability that, unsurprisingly for Gundam, as a franchise, is brought out by space robot samurai battles. But, do you like this character? Yes. She has a hell of a passionate scream, which is a must for all mecha pilots. What it really reminds me of is the stories of Noriko from Gunbuster, her VA, who's also called Noriko Hidaka, screaming Buster Beam during the practice with Hideaki Anno. From what little I saw of her, she's pretty good. But what about the mysterious boy, Tsuji? Well, once more, we don't know much, as the movie only showed, essentially, after that flashback sequence, the first 2 episodes of what will be the show. But he's also interesting and clearly there to fill in a classic Tomino role of the mysterious, mystical, supernatural new type. He also does graffiti though, which as someone who in my younger days threw up some tags, I can respect. That leaves Nyan, the cynical refugee of the one-year war working as a courier, or basically a black market smuggler. I think her background as an oppressed minority will provide ample neat opportunities too. Oh yeah, I should probably mention, just because Zeon won, the space paradise of the Space Noids doesn't exist. It turns out like every empire who fights, air quotes again, on behalf of groups it wants to absorb, The other surviving space colony groups don't have it much better than they really were under the Federation. There's still a huge displaced migrant population and economic perils included. Clearly, a lot of 0079's relative realism in war and technology is being thought about. Anyway, returning to the characters, the shift in designs is also very smooth, which is really quite surprising. As this is an alternate kind of UC, the shift away from the Yasuhiko designs feels both natural and kind of novel for Gundam. And let me remind you, once again, for any kind of holdouts out there calling them Pokemon characters, you gotta understand, under the shiny, cool, sleek, modern, simplistic surface, there's a lot of darker hints of violence to come. I mean, seriously, if you don't believe me, watch Katana Gatari. It's the same character designer in Takigaru, and that show is the definition of wipeout. Like, people getting wiped out. But Argon, what about the mobile suits? Ah, right. Number 8, the animation is cool, but the designs are still very busy. So, everything I guessed before in my 2024 wrap-up was right. Wow, no way. Go me. Basically, the Jikuwakuwakuzu has tons of surface details that in the very kind of dramatic and dynamic camera action totally blur together. Generally, I think Studio Khara learned a lot from the rebuilds in terms of their cinematography and composition. All the fights were very dynamic, fast, and surprisingly readable. I will say this is the fastest Gundam I've seen in a while. A lot of emphasis is put on depth of field distortion and rapid 3D camera movement, which makes these mobile suits the most jet-like in terms of speed, probably since 0083? The general mechanical design is generally also growing on me. There are lots of great little details. The Gundam's Vulcans have the feed chute undulate violently when firing, and the actual barrels are semi-exposed. It has a little camera on its chin. It also has big smoke launchers for obscuring smoke. The Gundam also, straight up, it looks backwards, like it rotates its head 180 degrees. So these mobile suits are very much robotic. If anybody was like, oh, look at the designs, these are going to be Evangelions, these aren't Ultraman. These are machines first and foremost. And it's been a while since I've seen that. I think I've only noticed it before in maybe Victory and a few other places. Also because of this, a lot of the impacts from the fights are really fucking impactful. The sound effects were kind of TF2 frying pan loud in the IMAX I saw it in, but it was great. It's definitely a departure from the standard Gundam mobile suit battles, and there's a lot of classic 0079 sound effects mixed in. In comparison, when I think back to Gqux, IBO, and maybe even Thunderbolt, they all stuck to, I know this is such a weird kind of statement, more conventional mobile suit choreography. The Origin has a bit more dynamic camera stuff, which of course is down to its 3D, but this feels very dynamic. This then leads me to number 9. 50-year-old Japanese man, Nerd, shows you his 40-year-old nerd notes. A lot of attention is given to mobile suit engagement strategy, namely the use of what in basic fighter maneuvers is essentially a 2-ship versus 2-ship combat flight. Chalia Bull and Char are described as pioneering something abbreviated to MAV, which is also likely similar. Essentially, the way Minovsky particles limit combat to shorter ranges and how pairs of mobile suits can use strategy to beat opponents. Now, they don't say what MAV stands for, but if you know what some nerds from 40 years ago thought was really cool, you know it's Top Gun, starring Tom Cruise as Maverick, you know. Ultimately, though, the strategy they talk about is basically a space version of loosey-goosey, or the BFM technique of using one unit to attract the enemy, while the second attacks the enemy going after the wingman. Like, I'm not joking, I can see in my mind, it's like perfect, an image of a sun-aged yellow piece of lined paper with, you know, Japanese scrawlings of these ideas getting taken off a shelf and the dust blown off of it, and the date in the top corner is like 1986. But all of it is pretty good. A lot of attention is being paid to formation and combat tactics, and I dig it. I do still think the clan battles won't be the singular combat we see, though. The setting has a lot of potential to break out in a more violent, you know, capital W war, and I think that's where this kind of practice mode fighting is prepping Machu, Tsuji, and maybe even Nyan for. This then leads me to the rapid fire round. This is just a bunch of shorter stuff which I noticed and liked. Number 10, even more plain nerd shit. The captured white base Char uses has a ring around the rear thrusters closed and act as a giant thrust reverser. This is based on several real-world planes which have this technology for braking. Also, my friend Hexe noticed that during one of the battles, the incoming mobile suit's missiles were identified in the fire control computer system as Vampire. This is an old Cold War designation, which is for hostile anti-ship missiles. It's just, stupid nerd stuff. Number 11. The big colony renders were really, really good. Yeah, all the space colonies and the asteroid renders were great. The 3D program Blender came up in the credits, so I think Studio Khara has been plugging in their nodes, if you know what I mean. A lot of the visual effects, like chromatic aberration and depth of field, as well as shaders to kind of sell scale and some slick camera work as well. They looked a lot nicer than the flatter shading of the first two Eva rebuild movies. Also, the detail that the Gqux has a launch by essentially just falling out of the colony edge is pretty great. A lot of Gundams forget that the outer exterior of an O'Neill colony's innate rotation would make hanging onto it pretty tough, and that just, falling through a hole in the ground would actually launch you out. If you don't believe me and you want to know what this feels like, go to a local fair or amusement park and find a tilt-a-whirl. Then ask them if you could hang on to the outside when they spin it up. You'll see exactly what I mean. Number 12. Psychomu. The Psychomu and the Psycho Frame are front and center, which is good. Nerds who hate new types and Psychomu are lame. I get it. In stuff like Unicorn, they're used really poorly, but I get a good vibe they'll be used very well here. Also, my friend Morlock, or Zettai Japan on YouTube, noticed that the Jikuwaksu's horn unites when it's in Super Omega Psychomu mode. Now, a lot of people would say, oh, he's going berserk like an Evangelion. But what's the shape that it makes? As my friend noted, it's a T for Tomino, like in Char's Counterattack. That may be the actual reason. Number 13. I feel I am too old for the music. I don't hate it, but it's very hip and happening. It's the Chainsaw Man guy for the OP, I think. I'm sorry, but I couldn't get that into it. And why can't they get Kid Rock to do the OP? Number 14. Sayla shows up. Yeah, Sayla fights Char briefly at Solomon, and she was the one who killed Dozle at Luna 2. This is pretty cool. She also is a no-show as of the 0085 alternate universe events. Number 15. Anno, I read the excised Christian lore, Hideaki. There was some interview ahead of time talking about how, Anokido or Anno channeled Tomino for the non-one-year war dialogue. But I don't feel it. There is some given Apocrypha stuff. The captured white base is renamed the Sodon or Sidon, which could either be a reference to Sodom or maybe Sidon of ancient Canaan. They also mention the friggin' Rose of Sharon, which is another biblical thing, which sounds mysterious and cool, until you realize it just means beautiful thing we don't know exactly what it is, which is a funny kind of way of saying to the audience, whoever this Rose of Sharon is also, someone that they don't really know who it is. It's a really stupid joke, but they're also partially responsible for Char going poof at Solomon. Yeah, I don't know. It was just a stupid nerd thing. Bible nerd stuff, though. Number 16. Where's Raul? I don't think we saw him once. There was a blue Xeon uniform guy. If that wasn't him, I do really want to know. If Chalia looks this good, I want to know what Raul looks like. Number 17. Pathetic bureaucrats. Cameron is alive in this timeline, and he's also he's in the same job. He's still a miserable bureaucrat. Despite the huge changes in the outcome of the battles and the war, it turns out some men are condemned to their fate. He may be married to Mirai, though, and there's also no sign of Bright Noah either. Number 18, the most shocking and important question. This is the one I have to get serious, I have to end the video on. But it was nagging me in the back of my head, this question, this whole time. The most pivotal character, when you think of the 1 Year War, the one who ultimately changed the fate of it the most. I'm sure all the others leaving the theater basically saw the same thing. One very special missing person, namely, where is Tamura, the salt chef? And what does he look like?